Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Dreams to Keys Realty YouTube channel. I am Jalon Strong, the Essential Millennial Realtor of Dreams to Keys Realty. Looks like the StreamYard video is a little delayed, but hopefully you can hear me just fine. If not, please let me know down in the comments. So, we are here to talk about the market data once again for Gwinnett County. First, before we get started, let's talk about our usual announcements. The first is the link in the bio highlight of the week. The link in the bio highlight of the week for this week is Down Payment Connect. So, where can you go to find the link in the bio or the link in the description box? It is the link that's moving about at the bottom of the screen and also in the description box or in the link in the bio on any of our social media pages. You can find us on social media platforms such as not only here on YouTube, but also on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. You never know what else we might add, so please follow us, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any content that is posted, uploaded, or anytime we go live on YouTube. If you're interested in content about the market, particularly in Gwinnett or DeKalb counties of Georgia, or if you're also interested in different tips for buying a home, or even interested in learning how to make your home more green or energy efficient, you definitely want to be subscribed to this channel. We're going to be covering all of that and more, so make sure you don't miss out by being a subscriber. So Down Payment Connect is the link in the bio or the link in the description, which is also moving about at the bottom of the screen, beacons.ai/Jalon Strong. From that link, you will see the tab that says Down Payment Connect. Down Payment Connect is a way that you can do some preliminary research to see what down payment programs are available for you in your area based on your information or also information about the type of property that you're looking for. It will tell you a number of different programs that are available to you based on the information that you input in the fields. And then from there, you can follow up with those results to see which programs you might want to use in your home purchase. Be reminded that down payment assistance may have different terms depending on the program. Some may be related to certain terms where you might have to pay it back if you don't follow through with other requirements of the program. And other terms might be related to, hopefully everyone can see me and hear me just fine. It was raining earlier, so it stopped raining now, so we should be fine, but hopefully everyone can see and hear me just fine. So that is the link in the bio or the link in the description box, highlight of the week, Down Payment Connect. To get to that link, click the link in the description box right here on YouTube, which is beacons.ai/Jalon Strong. You can see it moving about at the bottom of the screen if you just want to go there from typing it in, and then go to the tab that says Down Payment Connect to see all the features of how to find a down payment assistance program for you in the area that you are looking to buy your next home. So that's our link in the bio, highlight of the week. Now we're going to move on to our newest link, which you've probably heard if you've followed me in most recent videos. I have created a company called Crowned First Lady. And the backstory of it is pretty simple. I experienced my own journey with alopecia, and I found myself going to doctors, dermatologists to try to figure out how to overcome this. The hair in my crown had broken off. And it got to a point to where I wasn't as comfortable just wearing my hair out. And also when you have alopecia, there's little that you can do or should do to those areas as far as any pulling or braids. So some protective, quote unquote, protective styles were not even an option either. I ended up, following some guidance from the doctors only to find that they really were having me on options or wanted me to try options that would have me on lifelong medication for no other reason than this alopecia. And I felt that that just was not the best option for me, short term or long term. One of the options that I was asked to try was a product that is over the counter, which is minoxidil. And that's one of the products that everyone talks about when it comes to alopecia. And there's different versions of it. There's topical foam and all of that. So my dermatologist recommended that to me. I tried it only to find that I have a systemic allergic reaction to it, which means I cannot use it. And so therefore, I got to the point where I was like, I need to figure out something for me because following all of this guidance from the doctors and dermatologists, though I understand they're practicing medicine, they're practicing their specialties, it's really not helping me. And it's leading me on this path of frustration, disappointment, and no results. So I decided as a healthcare professional, a pharmacist, I need to figure out what's best for me and I need to do some research into what can I apply because I decided that I prefer something more topical than something that I would ingest. So I said, what can I apply to my scalp to help with this? And I came up with a formula. I worked on it. I applied it, of course, just for myself. And I found good results to the point that I replicated that formula over and over. And at one point, I noticed, hey, this crown is filling in. And from not just having the results for me, also being more comfortable with my natural hair, showing the difference to family and friends who were close to my journey, they saw that, hey, this has gotten better to the point that I got requests for the oil, not in just a small size, which I was originally looking at the 1 ounce size, but I got requests for 4 ounce sizes. And then I received reviews verbally about how great it worked for them. So, because of that, because of my success, because of the success reported to me by family and friends, I decided to create the company Crown First Lady, which is available right now at crownfirstlady.net, where I feature the oil that I crafted for myself that I learned also helped others for any hair loss or any alopecia that I was suffering from that you may also benefit from if you decide to try it. And I hope that you would decide to try it. The featured product is First Lady Scalp Oil in 1 ounce and 4 ounce bottles. I have a 4 ounce bottle here. And I want the video to kind of slow down so you can see. But this is the First Lady Scalp Oil. Trying to get the glare away. So this is the 4 ounce bottle. And on the bottle, you have your ingredients, your directions, warning, expiration date, and the website. But this is what it looks like in an amber bottle, amber dropper bottle. So you, with a 4 ounce bottle, you should be able to use that for quite a while. Of course, keep in mind the expiration date. So I would love to see your support. If you feel like you couldn't benefit from it, please share the link to those that you feel like could. From my experience, we kind of hide from those things that don't feel as comfortable to talk about. But if you have, a good girlfriend or a guy friend that you notice, hey, maybe you want to try this, or maybe they felt like I did, where you tried everything the doctors and dermatologists said that's not exactly what you want for yourself. Maybe this is something you can try as well. So I hope that you will, and I love to see your support. So thank you all in advance, and let's move on to our topic for today. So we're going to be talking about Gwinnett County. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm actually going to be toggling between screens because I want you all to see the April 2025 data for the zip code we're covering today, which is 30024. But I'm also going to toggle back to what we discussed for March 2025 so that we can discuss any variances. As we saw with the previous live on Gwinnett County, this zip code covers two counties. It covers Gwinnett and Fulton County. Now, I service Gwinnett and DeKalb County, but I wanted to bring this to the forefront because it covers Gwinnett County in part, but also because it's quite different in value from what we saw from the previous zip code we covered for Gwinnett County when we looked at Lawrenceville. So this gives us a picture of how different zip codes have different metrics. And just because you say Gwinnett County, what area or zip code that you're looking in can determine what type of price point that you need to consider if you're looking to buy a home in that area. So we are going to see that again, looking here at the April 2025 data. And like I mentioned before, I'm going to be toggling between looking at this data and March so that I can highlight any differences should there be any. And because I've gone through market data several times on this platform, I'm going to move kind of fast. I'm not going to explain as much as I usually would. If you feel like you are not getting the full explanation, please leave a comment or question down in the comment section, and I will respond to that when I see it at that appropriate time with the appropriate answer. If you're someone that feels like I just need to talk about what I am looking for in the zip code and area that I'm looking in, then feel free to schedule a consultation with me because that's something that's more personable or personal to you in your pursuit of home ownership. And if you're looking for representation or advice in the real estate sector, then you would need to have a consultation with me so that we can consider your potential of being a client of mine, or if I can refer you to someone else in the area or for the services that you're looking for. So let's jump right on in. If you're a subscriber, you probably already know that this is FastStats from the first multiple listing service, which is the FMLS. We're looking at the most recent month. So as we discussed previously in other lives, we can't look at May while we're in May. We have to look at the previous month, and we usually give it a little bit over the middle of the month before we gather all the data from the previous month, because we want to make sure once that month closed that all the reportings, all the metrics are in before we start to assess any of them. As we said, this is Gwinnett County and Fulton County. So this zip code of 30024 includes Suwanee and Johns Creek. We always start with residential detached. Once we finish that for the month-to-month comparison, we go to the year-to-date comparison. Once we finish all of that, we do the same for residential attached. Residential detached are properties like single-family homes. They're residential detached in category because they are not physically connected to another residential property. Let's move forward. So for the key metrics, for April 2024, the new listings for this zip code was 106. For April 2025, it was 137. That showed a percent change of 29.2%, meaning we have more new listings this year in April than we did last year in April. Now, looking at March, we are seeing that in March 2025, we had 119, which means we are seeing more new listings month to month in the most recent months of this year than we did last year, or than we did last year in both months. 137 is the highest comparing both months, both years. Now let's look at the pending sales. For April 2024, it was 81. For April 2025, it was 71. So we saw a drop there of about 12%. So pending sales, as we've discussed in previous slides, pending sales executed, but have not quite made it to the closing table. But it does give some indication on the activity in the area. So sometimes you can kind of see trends of properties or listings or transactions based on pending sales. There's that interest in this market. Now we see a slight decline looking at the April months. Let's look at March. For March 2025, it was 73 for pending sales. So we're just about around the same place, not much difference between March and April of 2025. Now let's look at closed sales. For April 2024, it was 86. For April 2025, it was 69, which is a drop of about 20% in closed sales. Now let's look at the March 2025, it was 49 closed sales at that time. So we are seeing more closed sales as we have gone through April 2025, which is encouraging to know, especially if you are a seller. That type of data or that trend going upward in closed sales is still a good sign for you. Even though it's different than it was last year, it's better than it was last month. And if you are a seller and you're seeing more sales in your area, that can kind of give you a clue on the likelihood of your home, if it's on the market, possibly selling. So keep that in mind if you're a seller. Days on market until sale. As we've discussed in previous lives, this is the cumulative days on market, not just days on market relative to any brokerage or any particular realtor, real estate agent, or broker. This is the time from when that when that property or properties in this case have gone on the market until the time that they have sold. For April 2024, it was 17, and it was the same for April 2025. So there was no change there. For March 2025, it was 29. Now, what we like to see with this number is that it go down, especially if you're a seller, because that means that it's not taking as long for the homes to sell in this market. When it was 29 last month or in March and April, it was 17. That means that the homes are selling faster in this market. And it's also a good sign that it's stable when we just compare the month of April in 2024 and 2025. It's showing stability. When we compare March to April for 2025, we're seeing the speed of it. So we're seeing that it's this market for this type of property, residential detached, is selling faster than it was just last month. So if you're interested in this market, that could be a good sign for you as well, especially if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, this is giving a hint that if you want to go into this market and buy a property, you need to have all your ducks in a row, because it may be that you may have a good offer, but if your time frame can be outbeat, based on this, 17 is the lowest we've seen reviewing any properties, zip codes, property types thus far since we've been reviewing market data. So this is quite fast. Now 30 is about pretty good within a month's time for most metrics. That's pretty good, and that's where March was. It was at 29. So to see total days on market, it could sell within half that time, just about half that time, is a much faster pace. So that's giving a hint that it could be a seller's market. So if you're looking to sell in the zip code, this could be a great time and great sign for you. Now let's look at median sales price. You will notice, as we discussed in previous slides, that there are asterisks next to median sales price, average sales price, and percent of list price perceived. That asterisk has some indication, meaning that there are certain things that were not accounted for in these metrics, such as down payment assistance or any seller concessions. So if those did take place. They were not factored into these metrics or calculations, and we cannot just based off of this data. So those will be outliers to what we see here. For median sales price for April 2024, it was $679,000. For April 2025, $750,000. Now that showed an increase of about 10.5%. That's median sales price. Median is the middle point of all the sales prices if you line them up. And we are seeing an increase. Does that surprise me? Not at all. So let's go to March 2025 and see what it was. The median sales price was $710,000. So we are up in median sales price by $40,000 from March 2025 to April 2025. We've discussed how we have more new listings, doing pretty good on pending and closing sales. And for our days on market until sale, we're closing in about half the time as March 2025. And the median sales price is up. So what does that say? This is giving a hint. It could be very well a seller's market. Why? Because the seller looks like they could sell in half the time they could last month, and they're getting more money, more of the sales price. So we'll talk about list price received and all of that in just a moment, but the sales price has gone up than it did as far as median thus far that we've discussed. It has gone up $40,000 from last month. So this sellers, if you're in this market and you're interested in selling, this could be the best time or a good time for you to sell. It's a good indicator for sellers. For buyers, if you're going into this market, you're going to have to be able to compete. So if you have a bunch of contingencies, this may not be the best time in this market. Of course, consult with your real estate professional, such as your real estate agent, real estate broker, realtor that is representing you to advise you best on your specific scenario. But this is giving an indicator that if you're going into this market, you have to be prepared that you need to have a competitive offer. And sometimes with offers, the more contingencies that you have, the less competitive your offer can appear. Of course, that's on the seller to decide, and the seller can be represented as well. So there's a lot of potential that the more contingencies you have, the less likely your offer could be accepted. So keep that in mind if you are someone that is looking to buy in this market at this time based on this data. You have to be ready to go kind of quickly. If you can purchase within half the month, it looks like you might be able to see more of your offer being accepted as opposed to someone who needs a month or more. And that's just based on this data. Of course, this has an asterisk next to everything. So there's things that were not considered, such as down payment assistance and seller concessions. So if you are someone who's looking to invest, you want to fix and flip, you're an investor, this may be a market if you just want to purchase a home fast. You can get your hard money loans or what have you pretty fast, and then you can get started into rebuilding. So keep that in mind. Average sales price for April 2024, $830,000, $830,919 number of sales prices that there were for the month of April for both of these years. And now what happened in March. So for March, the average sales price was $823,342. So that is showing that the average sales price has decreased. Now, when we look at median, we're looking at the middle point. So we line all the sales prices up and we find the one in the middle. When we look at the average sales price, we calculate all of the sales prices and divide them by the number of sales prices that there were. So with the median sales price, we're seeing an increase April 2024 to April 2025. For the average sales price, we've seen a decrease from both April 2024 to April 2025, as well as March 2025 to April 2025. Does that tell us a whole lot? It's relative. The median was an increase of $40,000. The average sales price is a drop of maybe close to $20,000. So that could be averaging. This is the average sales price. So it could be an indicator, but to me, that doesn't seem like enough just yet to say much, because we have a fluctuation. Now, percent of list price received for April 2024, it was 101%. Again, this is without seller concessions and down payment assistance being calculated in. For April 2025, it was 99.5. So this showed a decrease of 1.5%. Now, we typically like this number to be 100% or as close to it as possible, indicating that the list price was as accurate as it could be based on the market at the time. And that goes into, if this is a seller represented property, or if this for sale by owner, how did we fare once we got to the closing table based on what was listed. And for both of these values, we're pretty much there. We went over for April 2024 at 101 and 99. It rounds up to 100%. Now for March 2025, this value was 98.8. So we have increased from March to April 2020. Sale was 93 in April 2024, and April 2025, it was 202, which showed an increase of 117.2%. Inventory of homes for sale is not just the new listings, but it's also the existing properties that were on the market for sale. Now, I just want to pause and let us take all of this in. So we had more new listings. We're seeing that the closings are happening in about half the time. The median sales prices are up, but the average sales prices are slightly down. We're getting almost 100% of list price, of course, with the concessions and down payment assistance not being factored in. But we have so many more properties on the market in this market under residential detached. Now, let's go to March 2025, it was 164 homes for sale at that time. So we're having more homes than we had back then. And typically what we see in some other markets, when that happens, when we have more homes or more inventory for sale month to month, we typically see that days on market until sale extend. But in this case, it got shorter. At least looking at March to April 2025. So this is, to me, showing that this market is moving quite fast right now, which can be advantageous for a seller. Could be stressful for a buyer, depending on what type of buyer you are. If you're an investor, you might love this. If you are someone who's looking to purchase a home, you will need financing. Your financing may extend 30 days or more. This could be possibly challenging with your offer. But again, these are just some numbers. They're not the end all be all. Of course, there's outliers and there's things that aren't assessed here. So just take it for what it is. And of course, talk with your representative, your real estate agent, realtor, or real estate broker. We talked about what all of that means before. So there's different titles and different things. but make sure that you're represented. So when it's your time to go, it's time to make that offer, you're offer ready, you're prepared on either end. Now let's go to month supply of inventory. For April 2024, it was 1.3. For April 2025, it was 3.2, showing an increase of 146.2%. So, as we discussed before, month supply inventory tells us how many months it would take for all the inventory on the market to sell. In April 2024, it would have taken a little bit over 1 month. For April 2025, it would take a little bit over 3 months. Now, as I stated before, when we typically see the inventory increase like this in some markets, like when we previously talked about the zip code 30043, if that would have occurred, at least from what we reviewed previously, then we would have seen the days on market until sale be almost 2 months, if not more. The more inventory, the more percentage growth in month supply of inventory, the longer we saw the days on market until sale. With this zip code, we're seeing the exact opposite. So that's why it's important for, if you're going to buy a home, that you consider the zip code, the county, the city, because it does not match across the whole county. We're talking about just Gwinnett County. I'm comparing this zip code to the previous one we reviewed, and it's almost like polar opposite response from an increase in inventory. So keep that in mind. Again, this zip code is a mixture. It's Fulton and Gwinnett for this zip code, but that happens from time to time. So make sure that you're knowledgeable about how fast you can move when you are someone that needs financing, whether you're an investor needing hard money loans or a hard money lender, or you're someone who wants to purchase a home that you can live in and you need a lender to talk with about that. Get clarity on how fast that financing can be provided if you're not someone that could just outright buy the property by yourself, because it can make or break the deal. And just looking at this data here, if you have a lender that can only provide you 30 days or more in time of financing based on when that executed contract is signed, this may be too aggressive of a market for you. So get clarity from your lender, get clarity from wherever you're getting your finances from that is approved in the program that you're using, to make sure that you can match what is expected in the market at the time, so that your offers are not falling flat and you're not feeling like you're not really getting what you want. And then you become frustrated with those that are around you, such as your real estate experts. So this is why I encourage everyone to have a consultation with a real estate expert, have a consultation with the lender, because you need to know upfront what to expect from them. And then you need to talk about strategy. It's not just go show me a home, give me some money. It's about how do we do this in a way that makes the most sense, that has the best strategy, that puts me in the best position to not only get my offer on the table, but get it accepted and get into the home that I really want in the time frame that I want to, right? So keep that in mind. This market is giving that it's a bit aggressive for some right now. And of course, the price point or sales prices are higher than we saw for Lawrenceville. Again, this is a mixture count of zip code of 2 different counties, but you have to be ready to play ball, as they say, in this zip code. Now, for March 2025, that month supply of inventory was 2.6. So we have increased the inventory that much more, but we're seeing the days on market until sale is going quick. So you got to be on your feet in this zip code. Now, year to date, we're going to go into that, but I'm going to stop and just make sure we don't have any questions or comments. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below in the description box. And when I see them, I'll respond. Please make sure you don't put anything confidential or personal to you. Be appropriate in the comment section. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them there. Now we're going to talk about the year to date, and we're going to kind of go through this kind of fast. I'm not going to explain things as much. Year to date is pretty much as it states, the beginning of the year until where we end at both times in these months. So year to date through April 2024 for new listings was 354. Through April 2025, it was 429, showing an increase of 21.2% in new listings this year. For pending sales, we see year to date through April 2024, 307, and through April 2025 year to date, it was 249, which showed a decrease of about 19% for pending sales. For closed sales through April 2024, it was 253. Through April 2025, it was 208, showing a decrease of closed sales of about 18%. So we saw the same trend with the month-to-month comparison as we did with the year-to-date, the decrease in pending and closed sales. Now, days on market until sale through April 2024 was 25. Through April 2025 was 33, which shows an increase of 32%. This is a bit different than what we saw looking here month to month, and also when we took into account March 2025. So here we're saying or seeing that year-to-date for 2025 up until the end of April, the days on market until sale was 33, which is not bad. However, what we're seeing now in April month-to-month comparison is we have a shorter time frame. We have a shorter time frame in days on market until sale, just looking from March to April, and then comparing April 2024 and 2025, there was no change. So if you're looking, let's say, if you're looking for a trend of when the most optimal time to sell in this market, and maybe you're not quite ready this year, next year maybe, if this trend were to continue, this April might be an optimal time for selling. And that could be for a number of different reasons, depending upon what's going on in this zip code. It could be because as people are changing or preparing for the new school year, they may decide they want to sell just prior to, having their kids be in a different school zone. So they got to get prepared for that. So based on how this market moves just in April, and if you're a seller, this might be the optimum time to sell. And I know we're in May now, but if you're someone that is looking to forecast for the future or prepare, let's say you're doing some renovations and you're not planning to sell until maybe next year, April might be a good time for you to consider when to sell. Because looking at the year-to-date data, it looks like this year we've seen longer times, just slightly, for days on market until sale than we saw last year. Not terrible. Like I said, usually around 30 days is pretty fair, pretty good. But when we see it go lower, then we see that it's pretty much leaning into the seller's market, and those investors probably are buying properties more so, or there's different things going on in that zip code or county that could be impacting why people are moving. But April is giving a good indication for sellers for this zip code. Now, median sales price year to date through April 2024, it was $648,000. For year to date through April 2025, it was $681,000, which showed an increase of 5.1%. So we are increasing across the board in median sales price. Now, average sales price through April 2024, $753,289. Through April 2025, it was $801,083, which is an increase of 6.3%. So whereas for the month-to-month for average sales price, we saw a decrease of about 3%. For year to date, we're seeing that average sales price is increasing, and it's about double in percentage. So that's why I think year-to-date data is also important, even though month-to-month can give us some indicators, but year-to-date can help us see if we're looking to forecast, if we have more long-term goals, where we can kind of see ourselves or where the trend is going so that we can be prepared, especially if you're really set on this zip code or you really love this area, but you're not quite ready today, this month, or next month, and you're just set on it for one reason or another, you can kind of prepare. You see where the trend is going and you see where you would need to position yourself. And you can talk with your real estate experts to make sure you're in the proper position should this be the very zip code that you must live in for whatever reason. Now, percent of list price received year to date through April 2024 is 100.1%. Through April 2025, 98.8%, which showed a decrease of 1.3%. We're still about 100. Nothing too much to take from that. And of course, this is year to date, so it does factor in the previous months and average them out. All right, I'm going to pause again, make sure we don't have any questions. I don't see any questions. Again, even if you're looking on the replay, if you have any questions, put them down below. If you like this content, if you like knowing more about how the market's doing, you want to know about your market, you're in Georgia, you're in Gwinnett or DeKalb counties, which are the areas that I service. And I'm going to talk about DeKalb County next after this live. But if you're in these areas and you just want to know how things are doing, come on in, share it with a friend, like the live, subscribe. We've got more coming. We talk about real estate market data for Gwinnett and DeKalb County each month. So we're not going to stop that, have no plans of stopping it. Now let's talk about residential attached. Residential attached properties are those properties like townhomes, some condos, but they're essentially those properties that are connected. So if you couldn't separate the property from another property, whether you own that property or the next one, then that's under the category residential attached. Now let's look at the same key metrics. For April 2024, new listings were 26. For April 2025, new listings were 37, showing an increase of 42.3%. What you have already noticed based on what we saw for new listings for residential detached properties is that these numbers are much smaller, which means the percentage differences are going to be bigger. So that number in new listings doesn't at face value give much difference, but let's see what happened for March 2025. For new listings, then we had 33. So we went up from not just April to April, but March to April of 2025. So we have more new listings in residential attached. Now pending sales. April 2024, it was 23 and it was 12 for April 2025, showing a decrease of about 48% in pending sales. We already talked about what pending sales are. Going to March 2025, it was 17. So from 17 to 12, we are still declining. So we decline month to month and from March to April of 2025. Looking at closed sales, we talked about what that means. For April 2024, it was 21 and the same for April 2025. Now looking at March 2025, for closed sales, it was 14. So we went from 14 to 21. So we have some increase in closed sales, which is a good sign for the market movement. Now, days on market until sale for April 2024, it was 30 days. For April 2025, 32 days, which shows an increase of about 7%. Now let's go to March 2025, it was 31. So we went from 31 to 32 and added an extra day. Now, typically, if you are selling, you don't want to see this category go up. You want to see it go down. For buyers, this gives you a little bit more time. How much to take away here? Still a fair time frame for the market. Now, median sales price. Again, these asterisks are still here for median, average sales price, as well as percent of list price received. Now let's look at April 2024 for median sales price. It was $541,150. For April 2025, it was $511,000, which showed a decrease of about 6%. Now let's look at March 2025. It was $490,000. So from $490,000 to $511,000, we are seeing an increase in median sales price. So month of March to April 2025, the median sales price is going up. Again, the median is the middle point. Average sales price for April 2024, it was $530,535. Now for April 2025, it was $528,405. That showed a decrease of 0.4%. Let's look at March 2025 for average sales price. It was $503,271. Now that is showing that we have increase in the average sales price from March to April 2025. Now, percent of list price received for April 2024, it was 100.1%. For April 2025, it was 99.3%, which showed a decrease of 0.8%. Those numbers are still quite close to 100%, and it's showing an improvement because in March 2025, it was 98.4%. So we are getting better with the list prices being closer to the sales prices. Again, this category does have that asterisk. Now for inventory of homes for sale for April 2024, it was 19. Again, these are small numbers for residential attached. And then for April 2025, it was 64. So that showed a great percentage difference of 236.8%. So we have increased in our inventory of sale. Okay, the screen blanked out. Inventory for sale in residential attached in the zip code of 30024. Now, for March 2025, it was 48. So we have increased from March as well, from March to April of 2025 as well, month to month for both Aprils. Now let's look at the month supply of inventory. For April 2024, it was 1.3. For April 2025, it was 4.9, which shows another greater even percentage increase of 276.9%. Now let's look at March 2025. It was 3.5. So 3.5 to 4.9, we got a lot more inventory in this market and pretty decent on the days on market until sale. So this is not a bad market. If you're someone that is interested in buying, you seem to get more time if you're looking in the residential attached category from the executed contract stage to the closing stage. You get a bit more time, get about a month. And then if you're someone that, wants a residential detached property, you got to be ready to go because that seller could be looking at about half that time. So we got the inventory though. There's greater inventory. Percentage differences are there on both residential attached and detached. I'm going to pause here and just see if we have any questions. All right, I think my screen is a little weird. Okay, I don't see any questions. Keep them coming if you find them. If you have any, please put them in the comment section. I'll see them and we will get to answering them. All right, let's move on to our graphs. I'm sorry, year-to-date data. We haven't done that yet for residential attached. So again, these are smaller numbers, but it's year-to-date through the same time frame. So through April 2024, new listings were 80. Through April 2025, it was 115, showing an increase of 43.8%. So we have well more new listings year-to-date. Pending sales through April 2024, 74. And through April 2025, 60, which showed a decrease of about 19%. So we have less pending sales. Now, closed sales through April 2024, 64, and the same value for the closed sales through April 2025. So we're even on both years for closed sales up until April, through the end of April. Now, days on market until sale year to date through April 2024 was 48. Through April 2025, 38, which showed a decrease of about 21%. So this showed a bit of an opposite trend. So when we looked at residential detached, we saw, April, it was the same, but March to April, we saw a decrease in days on market until sale, which is a good thing, especially if you're a seller. That means that home could possibly be sold in half a month's time. Now, when we went to year-to-date data for residential detached, we saw that through April 2025, we had a longer days on market until sale than we did through April 2024. Here we're seeing that we're pretty much even killed. So we got 2 more days on just comparing the months of April. But then when we look at the year-to-date data, and we had this time or through April of both years. So a bit of a difference. Now, it's a good thing to see it get closer to the 1 month time frame at least. So we're not out the woods when it comes to year to date on that, but it is a good sign to at least, have a fair market where it can be closer to a 1 month time frame. So we're coming out of that 2.5 or 2 months and getting closer to the 1 month. Median sales price year to date through April 2024 was $522,500. And year to date through April 2025 was $492,500, showing a decrease of about the same as we saw for the month to month, where it's 5.7% of a decline. This is median sales price. So that could mean a great difference for your buyers. Again, this is median, it's the middle, there's values below and above. Excuse me. But seeing that it's declining, seeing that you have more inventory out there year to date, seeing that the days on market are pretty much averaging out closer to your 1 month time frame than anything higher. For a buyer, that could be encouraging if you're interested in this zip code. For a seller, it's pretty fair as well. So it's pretty neutral looking to me, but it could trend closer to a buyer's market if that days on market until sale continues to climb. We'll continue to look at this market for at least another month and see what happens with the days on market until sale, because we see that inventory is growing. Even though this is residential attached where the numbers are smaller, we are seeing that month supply of inventory grow quite a bit. And we're still staying close to that list price with the sales price. So we'll keep checking. We'll check again next month and see what happens with our days on market until sale. I'd be curious to see if it increases or decreases. Now, average sales price through April 2024 was $508,487. Through April 2025 is $510,170, showing an increase of 0.3%. That's not much of an increase, but if you are someone that has a specific pre-approval where it's quite tight, close to those values, then that percentage increase could be low, but it could be influential, or it could impact your ability to buy depending on what your pre-approval number is. So again, that's the average. Add up all the sales prices divided by the number of sales prices for those time frames. The percent of list price received through April 2024 was 99.1%. Through April 2025, 98.6%, where we see a decrease of 0.5%. Both numbers are close to 100% overall, and we'll just keep checking. Again, this is an asterisk metric, so it does not account for certain things, but those numbers are quite high, quite close to 100%, still pretty good. Now, let's finish off with the residential detached and residential attached graphs of median sales price with the rolling 12-month calculation, which means that the current month and the 11 months prior are showing in a single data point. And if there was no activity, the line just continues to the next available data point. The green lines that you see are for the zip code 30024, which is the zip code that we have been talking about this entire live. And then the gray line that you see is the all MLS data, which is the MLS of the First Multiple Listing Service, or FMLS. Both graphs start at January 2014 and end at the data that we have discussed thus far. So as you see on the left, the median sales price for residential detached graph with the gray line and the green line never touching. They both start, in their price points, sales prices. The gray line starts just below the $200,000 mark, and it reaches the $200,000 mark in or at January 2016. At that same time, the zip code of 30024 has surpassed the $300,000 mark. And that zip code then crosses over the $400,000 mark at January 2021. So after the pandemic, it was a bit bumpy, but it still went trending up. And at that time, January 2021, the all MLS data is just under the $300,000 mark. We see that gray line for the all MLS data takes a bit of an incline and crosses the $300,000 mark in the 2021 year and steadily inclines, reaching just under the $400,000 mark at the end of the graph. And at the time in 2021, the zip code of 30024, again for residential detached properties, is inclining but has some bumps here and there. It reaches the $500,000 mark by January 2022. Still inclining, reaches the $600,000 mark by January 2023, and ends the graph just under the $700,000 mark. So what we've seen is this zip code has withstood the pandemic as far as its price points or sales prices, and it has surpassed the all MLS data by at least $100,000 at some points, if not more. So this is a zip code where you can expect higher sales prices than on average for this MLS or on median. Now for the residential attached, same x-axis with the same years. Starting this graph, the all MLS data is about midway between the $100,000 and $200,000 mark. It reaches the $200,000 mark by January 2018. At that time, the zip code of 30024 is approaching the $300,000 mark, which it crosses just looks like in the first quarter of the first quarter of 2018. It gets a little bumpy, almost looks like it's leveling out at times, but still inclines, takes a bit of a sharper incline after the pandemic. So in 2021, you see it kind of incline a bit more and hit the $400,000 mark by January 2022. At that time, the all MLS data is just under the $300,000 mark. It inclines a bit, crossing the $300,000 mark. And again, this is all in median sales price at the midway point, just about for 2022. It continues to have a slight incline, and it ends the graph in between the $300,000 and the $400,000 points. The zip code of 30024 continues to incline. It actually jumps above the $500,000 mark for median sales price, again for residential attached, but ends the graph coming downward closer to the $500,000 mark line. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I don't see any questions, but again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I am here to clarify anything that was said on the live. And of course, this is general overview metrics and information presented to us through FastStats, compliments of the First Multiple Listing Service. So as a realtor, I have that access, and I want to make sure that any customers or clients that I have are informed of this type of information. Now, if you are a client or become a client, we talk more strategically about how I can assist you in your specific pursuit, whether you are selling or buying. And of course, if you're a buyer, I would love to help you get connected so that you can have all of the, access to our preferred lenders, the things that you see in the links, and much more. So I'm working on some of the things that I described earlier in this live, such as information about making homes more green or energy efficient. And I'll be talking more about that on this channel in the months ahead. So if you are interested in not only market data, you want to know how to improve your home, make it more energy efficient, you want tips on the buying process, you want to know different things that I may speak about that are related to topics in the media, you definitely want to not only like this live, share it, subscribe, and make sure that you hit the notification bell. You can say all on the notification bell so that you don't miss any content that we have on this channel. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for listening and being interested in this type of content. If you want to see more of this, please, of course, like it. It really helps to keep us and get us in the algorithm so that we attract more of those that are interested in this type of content. So I will end this live here. I am Jalon Strong, the Essential Millennial Realtor of Dreams to Keys Realty, and I will see you in the next live, which I will start right after this one for DeKalb County. Same thing, talking about market data for April 2025. And with that, I will leave you and see you in the next one. Dreams to Keys Realty is where your dreams turn into keys.